I will not be intimidated by this president. I am not going to be silenced by this president or the people around him, because I've given too much in service to this country to back down to this guy.
Arizona Senator Mark Kelly was all over the media this past week, responding to President Trump's calls for capital punishment after he and fellow Democrats posted a video urging service members not to follow illegal orders. Kelly delivered a lot of straight talk, reminiscent of Senator John McCain, and sounded a lot like a potential candidate for president. So what should we take away from Kelly's response? Is it the clearest sign yet that he's looking ahead to 2028? Our politics panel steps in with all the answers. Democratic consultant Matt Grodsky of Matters of State Strategies and Republican consultant Lorna Romero of Elevate Strategies. She was also former aide to Republican Governor Jan Brewer and Senator John McCain. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thanks for having us.
Matt, will you look at this past week a year from now as Mark Kelly's kind of launching pad for the presidency?
I don't know about a launching pad, but I think what's evident is the administration picked a fight with a U.S. veteran, right? And I think that the analogy up front that, it's got the spirit of John McCain, I think that's totally accurate. This guy's a fighter and he's speaking truth to power. So I think we can expect to see more of that throughout the next year, regardless of what the senator wants to do. I think he's been pretty clear that he's focused on the role he's got now.
What do you think? Is this the launching pad?
I don't think it's necessarily the launching pad, but he definitely took the opportunity to speak out and let it be known that he was not pleased with the comments from the administration and obviously from the Department of War. But this isn't necessarily something shocking from Senator Mark Kelly. I feel like he has always been one to speak his mind when he disagrees with anybody, whether it's his own party or the Trump administration. And so I think if in the future he decides to run for higher office, we can point to this as something. But this is something very personal to him, so I'm not surprised that he has been very public about these threats have been launched against him.
It's an easier subject to talk about when it's that personal, but at the same time, he really embraced this moment. He was all over the place. Jimmy Kimmel, Washington, D.C. press corps, doing interviews. I got an interview.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, and it makes sense, right? Given what has transpired with his wife in the past, political violence has been something that he's unfortunately had to deal with in his family for a very long time. He's had these comments made by the Trump administration, which has led to additional threats being made to him and his family. I am not surprised that he's taken every opportunity to speak out against it.
Is he maybe, though, overplaying his hand here? Too much of it, the branding of the seditious six by Republicans, will that stick?
No, I don't think he's overplayed his hand at all. If anybody's miscalculated, it's the administration. This is Mark Kelly's lane. He's winning the narrative on this, and I would expect that to continue.
I should add, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth set a deadline this coming Wednesday, December 10th, for a Navy report on Kelly's conduct.
Ooh. Can't wait.
Do you think Hegseth, given everything, the mess he's had to clean up, is going to go forward with this?
Potentially. I mean, I think the Democrats that participated in this video, I don't know what they were expecting in terms of a response from the Trump administration. This should not be a surprise to any of them. Given what we've seen come out of, Secretary Hegseth, it doesn't surprise me if he moves forward. I think politically it would be smart if they let this issue go away since they're dealing with so many other controversial topics. But we will see.
We have to see if he still has a job by then, too, I don't know if he'll be here.
There's that question. I always have to put a timestamp on our conversations. It is Friday morning. Pete Hegseth still has a job, I believe. The day is long, however. Well, thank you for that segue to topic two. A rough week for President Trump. He blows up his own economy argument with this affordability con job statement, smears Somali immigrants as garbage, faces a looming healthcare cliff, and didn't do so well in yet another special election. Will Trump drag down Republican candidates like Awan Siskamani here in CD6 and maybe in CD1, an open seat? Is that where this is going in the midterms?
There's always a concern during the midterm, whether it's under a Republican administration or a Democrat administration, that they are going to weigh down the rest of the, especially when they're not on the top of the ticket, that they're going to harm those who are seeking re-election. There's an opportunity now, given that the election is so far away and voters have short memories, to pivot to the issues and focus on the issues that voters care about, the issues that Trump voters overwhelmingly supported the last election cycle that got him reelected, and had, Republicans across the board, sweep the 2024 election. So there's an opportunity to course correct.
You really think he can do it?
We are now in December 2025. November 2026 is a long time away. We've been on this program many times and talked about the issues that we thought would impact the election, and we get a curveball months later, right? So nobody knows what the lead issues are going to be. There's an opportunity to course correct. But for individuals like Juan Ciscomani and others who are in competitive districts, this is no different for them, right? They always have to deal with the dynamics of the Republican administration and how that's going to impact their district. They need to run their own race, right? And I think that's something that we've seen Juan do really well, is just focus on his district. And it's helpful that Trump is not on the ballot in 2026, so they can really kind of
helpful that he's not on the ballot.
I think it's a major problem for Republicans down ballot. The president has shown over the last decade he's not disciplined enough to pivot in a productive way. Now, the wind is at Democrats' back across the country, but we could still screw that up, so we got to remain laser focused. I think the broader thing to look at here is he's had a slew of bad weeks, right? And his approval ratings are dropping. And you look at folks like Mike Johnson, who's become a punching bag. I think the big takeaway is loyalty only gets you so far with Trump, because he'll hang you out to dry. And his party has chosen that same path by letting the American people hang out to dry, too. So that's going to be our message going forward.
One comment I would make about, the Democratic Party is still in disarray. Let's be honest.
Dems in disarray.
Dems in disarray.
We're feeling pretty good right now, man.
There's no real leadership, and the leadership that has come out is not reflective of the electorate at large. And so I think Democrats typically go into these election cycles a lot more confident than what reality shows.
Well, are you in disarray, Matt?
If that's what disarray looks like with all those wins we've had, I'll take it. Let's go.
All right, let's move to topic 3. Katie Hobbs versus school vouchers. Once again, Governor Hobbs is pledging to push for accountability measures on the Empowerment Scholarship Account program in the new legislative session that starts just a month from now. So, it's coming. Let's review what Hobbs has said during her first 3 years in office in January.
The previous legislature passed a massive expansion of school vouchers that lacks accountability.
Now is the time to advocate for accountability and transparency, not a blank check.
We knew that this was a program with no accountability, no guardrails. It's ripe for fraud and abuse. We have seen that fraud and abuse played out over and over and over again.
3 Januaries in a row, Hobbs made the same pledge. She is 0 for 3 on voucher accountability. Lorna, will January 2026, be any different?
No, it won't, especially if she's going to take the approach that she has for the past 3 years. I think there's been conversations about, do there need to be modifications to the program? Arguments on both sides that the reason why we've been able to see all of these, unfortunate fraudulent transactions is because there is accountability and they can find it in the system, right? Obviously, Democrats most of them are not fans of the program at large. I think where her failure has been the past 3 years is just wanting to eliminate the program entirely, which is a non-starter for Republicans when you have a Republican legislature. And it's a growing popular program amongst Arizona families. And so if she wants to have a real conversation with Republicans, about modifications to the program, there needs to be a different approach versus let's just eliminate it and use this money to fund other programs and priorities that I have for the upcoming year.
Is a real conversation even possible, even if you do? And I think fairly Hobbs has narrowed her goals here.
Sure. I think the Republicans have made it clear that this is their hill to die on. So I credit her for consistency in messaging. She has a Republican legislature that's obstructing her, right? So I'd like to see her same message, her same talking points actually in January of 2027, hopefully when Democrats can actually get a majority in the legislature and get some accountability, because that is the main problem. And I think that resonates with swing voters and people across the spectrum, that you can't just have this rogue system set up, regardless of what the solution is. People spending money on diamond rings and weird stuff instead of their children's education. That just can't stand.
But you still have I was just going to say there's been a lack of accountability in spending when it comes to public districts, and there needs to be more accountability on that system as well.
Sounds like a preview of the debate next month.
Right.
Lorna Romero, Matt Grodsky, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us.